IRS whistleblowers took to Capitol Hill, revealing how protected President Biden and his son were during their investigation, while federal agents were being obstructed.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
Prosecutors instructed investigators not to ask about the big guy or dad when conducting interviews. Investigators were not allowed to follow up on WhatsApp messages from Hunter Biden's Apple iCloud backup, where he suggested he was sitting next to his father.
Former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker joins us now. And Matt, to the layperson, this hearing was eye-opening, shocking. But for somebody in your position who was the top lawyer in our country for a time, what stood out to you?
Yeah, several things, Todd, and it's good to be with you and Carly this morning. You know, I saw what was outlined as consistent with, obviously, what these two have previously testified in sworn statements. But remember, this was under oath. These people were putting themselves out there, their careers on the line. And, you know, what was done is not only was this case different than every other case that I'm familiar with, and I was a U.S. attorney for 5.5 years, and I did, you know, kind of just cases of this tenor all the time. But, you know, they never, even though Hunter Biden's getting this extraordinary plea deal, he's not having to testify or to even talk to agents or investigators about his case. And I've never seen that when you get a very favorable plea deal. Always, you know, a proffer is made or some other debrief just to make sure that the investigators understood the scope of the case. And so this case is so different and so outside of the mainstream of the way the Department of Justice does their cases that not only is it you know, should have been appointed a special counsel, but it needs to really be continued to drill in to the details, because it's so different than any other case.
What did you think about how Democrats used their time? They didn't talk about the Hunter Biden case. Their counter argument was about racism in the IRS, Donald Trump. They talked about George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Dive into that.
Yeah, it was like two different worlds. I mean, as I was watching it, and it would, you know, go back and forth between Republican and Democrat questions, you just got a sense that the Democrats don't understand the gravity of this situation. They don't want to see. I mean, at one point in time, Representative Goldman, you know, elicited that Joe Biden did talk about deals with his son, and you know that's inconsistent, obviously, with what the White House has been telling us for an eternity since this broke, since the laptop came on the scene. You know, but obviously they were trying to score cheap political points, and I think that's the disappointing thing that we always see in these House hearings, especially, but oftentimes in Senate hearings as well. Is it ends up becoming this political back and forth, and no new ground is plowed. I just think that the gravity of the situation, together with the earnestness of the witnesses, I just don't. These two witnesses are just beyond reproach, and so anytime somebody tried to undermine, you know, their position or what they were saying, I think it came off as you know, cheap political theater. Yeah,
well, a lot of Republicans say that if your last name is Biden, you're going to get special treatment. If your last name is Trump, then good luck. So we put together 5 times that the FBI treated Hunter Biden and Donald Trump very differently. There's a lot here. First, Trump versus Hunter on search warrants. August 8th, 2022, the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago with a warrant. For Hunter, March 2020, the IRS was ready to move on with a search warrant, but then in September, top Delaware DOJ officials shut down the IRS efforts for warrants over optics. Trump versus Hunter on witness interviews. For Trump, special counsel Jack interviewed dozens of witnesses in investigations, including Trump family members. For Hunter, the DOJ limited who investigators were able to interview, including investigators saying that they were not going to go with the interview with Joe Biden. That's what the prosecutors wanted. On attorney-client privilege, for Trump, the DOJ stripped attorney-client privilege with top lawyers. For Hunter Biden, the DOJ considered emails where Hunter's lawyers were copied was privileged information. On lawyer cooperation for Trump, lawyers worked with and invited DOJ and FBI agents to look into classified documents cases. Were not given any warning on the Mar-a-Lago raid, but for Hunter Biden, lawyers were warned about IRS interviews with Hunter, and his defense team was alerted about investigators' interests into the storage unit. And lastly, there were the reputational concerns for Trump. The DOJ claims investigations and indictments were not politically motivated. For Hunter, the DOJ is accused of dragging their feet on investigations 2 months before the 2020 election. So there is a lot there, which Republicans say constitutes a two-tiered system of justice.
Well, and that lays out in stark detail the contrast and the two-tier system of justice, because Hunter Biden was given every benefit. His lawyers were tipped off before a search warrant was going to be executed at a storage unit. As you lay out, that all of those things are differences in the case and how they were treated. And now we have the investigators on the case saying that the Hunter Biden case, that there was political influence and people at Main Justice were putting their thumb on the scale. And I just, again, this is not the way we should do it in the United States of America. It's not the way we did it when I was U.S. Attorney in the Bush administration. And it's not the way we did it when I was at Main Justice in the Trump administration. And so, Merrick Garland has a lot to account for. It's very clear that his past public statements are, if anything, they're not true, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and suggest that he needs to go and revise his statements, because clearly they are not standing the test of time based on what these investigators are saying.
And to your earlier point, Democrats live in a different world if they don't hear what Carly just said and think that there aren't two different systems of justice right now. Matt Whitaker, thank you
so much, Matt.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.